Steven, what was more shocking on Sunday? Biden dropping out or Tom Brenneman returning to the broadcast booth?
Oh, what was more surprising? That's easy. Yeah, that's Tom Brenneman. That's returning to the broadcast booth.
I think so.
Easy surprise. I think that's a pretty safe answer to have, right? It's easily Tom Brenneman.
I would say so. I think that a lot of people were kind of hoping. I mean, I didn't really care either way, but I think a lot of people were looking for old Sleepy Joe to be out of the race. And so I should tell you, I was flying back Sunday night, or no, Sunday afternoon, or Sunday morning, actually. Time was all over the place going from the East Coast to the West Coast. But when I was flying back Sunday, I was on a 6-hour flight back to San Francisco, and I missed a ton. So when I opened my phone, I saw Biden's out, Brenneman's back. I was hoping for Justin Simmons news, but that didn't happen.
Oh,
I know.
That would have been right on. That would have been right on par there. I think America would have shifted their focus totally to Justin Simmons and his new team, wherever he may sign, as opposed to the presidential elect dropping out for a new presidential elect.
Yeah, I figured, people have their priorities of what really is news.
Yeah,
but
I found out from Shams.
Yeah, you know what? Here's my thing on that, and just your opinion, man. Steve Lang for Derek Papa. Shams needs to stay in his lane, and it wasn't just him. Ian Rappaport, I saw, tweeted out that a Biden drop.
Stick to sports.
Well, here's the thing. By all means, you can do whatever you want on social media, but when you're you use social media to break news, I'm sorry, but come on, man. Isn't there some kind of political insider that deserves that story more than Shams Charania? I actually respect Adam Schefter for just retweeting other people's stuff. Right. But when Shams is the guy being like, breaking news, Joe Biden is dropping out, I'm like, dude, you're acting like you have the scoop on that?
Right.
That's a little stupid to me. And the AI bot that we love, Dove Kleiman, reporting on it or aggregating it, dude.
Derek, I haven't followed Dove Kleiman.
I know you have it, but I went on this Justin Simmons news. Damn it!
I'm out on the Dove Kleiman. I'm out on that company. What's proven to be a company as opposed to a single person.
The power of Dove, not the body soap.
Yes. No, I agree with you, but it's just so funny how it's crazy the reach he has. Okay, the reach he. I mean, people would have found out eventually, so it really isn't anything that needs to be reported. But the reach he has, I think he's addicted to it. Addicted to being the guy. I think a lot of these insiders are. Adam Schefter, not really so much because he's been doing it for so long.
Yeah,
but mainly the guys in the NBA.
Yeah, but my whole thing is if you're following Shams, are you then just being like, whoa, Biden's out?
Well, I did find out, and that was my exact reaction when I read Shams's tweet. I didn't think oh man, Shams reported it. I didn't think, wow, good on Shams to have the report.
But that's where you first saw the news.
It's where I first saw the news because I have the Twitter notifications put on. So,
okay, well, that's different. The Twitter for notifications, that definitely plays a factor in it. But if I don't know, man, if you're getting your political news from Shams Charania, that just pretty much sums up where our society is.
I don't think anyone's getting their political news from Shams. Shams came out of left field with that one. He was at the one end of the court and heaved it to the other. He was making an inbounds pass and instead just went for the shot entirely, 94 feet.
No, he definitely did. But yeah, man. Good old Tom Brenneman back.
Good old Tom Brenneman back.
And sure enough, I texted you this is a big news day. And you were like, well, it's only fitting that Nick Castellanos is going to hit a home run today. And sure enough, he did.
Yeah. The track record that guy has with hitting home runs in, I guess you could say, awkward times. I don't really know how to describe it because it is kind of awkward. Whatever.
Well, I'm not relating it to. I mean, the only way that it would have been awkward is if the Phillies play-by-play guy would have been like, "Well, breaking news here. Turns out that the current president, Joe Biden, will not be looking for re-election this year as he drops out and there's a deep fly ball to center field. That's the only way that would have been the same. It was ironic that the day that Tom Brenneman is coming back to the world, so he's going to do against college football on the CW, and then his guy Nick Castellanos hits a home run.
Yeah, dude, if Nick Castellanos played football back in the, I think the 80s, and or the 70s, late 70s, and Howard Cosell hopped on the broadcast during the game to announce that John Lennon has been shot, I guarantee you that in the middle of that speech, Castellanos would have scored a touchdown. It's just that eerie, spiritual almost.
He does love to steal the moment. It was
really
funny though.
Does. Could you imagine?
So when I was flying back, we were going to have a KMBR 49er dinner to celebrate the upcoming season that Mr. Bob Sargent always throws for us. So I made it over to Original Joe's in San Francisco after my flight. Dead ass tired, and I was just being goofy the whole time. And my dad shows up, and they're talking about Biden dropping out. And I'm like, "Did you hear the news?" My dad's like, "Yes, Derek, of course I heard it." I go, "It's pretty shocking, huh?" He goes, "Well, I don't know why he decided to debate." I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? Your guy Tom Brenneman's back." He's like, "Oh, he is? Well, that's interesting."
Wow, man of many words. Yeah, what isn't he doing, like the Pac-12 Mountain West games that are going to be playing next year?
I don't know. I don't know whatever games he's doing. It's just hey, let's just hope that this time around Tom knows that he's not a commercial break.
Yeah. Well, just isn't it kind of isn't that a rule if you're doing play-by-play
Absolutely.
for any sport? It's just always, isn't that the rule? It's always assume there's a hot mic.
Yes.
Yeah,
and just maybe just refrain from homophobic slurs, that too.
Yeah. Just give it a shot, Tom.
Yeah.
You know any Toms with an H in it? I don't trust any of them.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Like I always thought it was weird, Thom Brenneman.
Yeah. I guess there's Tom York from Radiohead, but
does he spell it with Thom?
Yes, he's Thom. He spells it Thom.
Did I ever tell you I thought Radiohead has been kind of overrated?
No, but I can understand why.
Well, my roommates once upon a time in college were very into Radiohead, and I was just I did not see the big appeal.
It's a very I don't know, you got to be like deep inside music if you want to understand like what kind of impact they had. They were technically pioneers of a certain genre, and if you appreciate that genre, then you appreciate Radiohead. Radiohead's for very much like the diehard kind of listeners, I think.
No, I mean, I appreciate them, and I know, I respect the music they make. It's just not for me. Just kind of, a little too indie. And then it becomes a whole thing of like, oh yeah, I like Creep. You like Creep? Of course you would. They're one mainstream song.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a whole back history with Radiohead and my roommates. Anyway, let's talk a little football, Steven.
Oh.
Or should we just keep talking about politics? I got a lot of views on Mountain Dew.
we could talk politics if you want.
No,
you want to talk Diet Mountain Dew, whether Diet Mountain Dew is racist or not?
I mean, I just want to know who still drinks Mountain Dew.
Diet. I didn't know there was a diet version.
Yeah. I'm not a Mountain Dew guy to begin with. 7-Up, Sprite. I'll even do Starry over Mountain Dew. Anyway, let's talk a little football because training camp is here, Steven. Can you feel it?
I'm ready. I'm at that stage now where it's like I'm getting into football mode. I'm telling myself that I'm going to watch more tape, even though I know for a fact I'm only going to watch like 1 or 2 games with game film and then give up halfway through the season. I'm ready for all of it, man.
So did you put money down for NFL Plus?
Well, no.
So how do you watch the tape then?
Well, I mean, I got a friend's account. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Are they aware?
I hope so.
Well, all right then. So yeah, training camp is officially underway. I think all 32 teams have reported. So we'll get to the latest with the 49ers. A lot of stuff happened today. But before we get to the 49ers, I want to talk about the Raiders real quick and their training camp because it's very interesting. I was not aware that they are not doing training camp in Henderson this year. Just found this out a couple of minutes ago. They are going to sunny Los Angeles, along with, of course, the LA Rams, the LA Chargers, and the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, from every now and then, get to go to Oxnard for training camp. But in Vegas, it gets very, very hot. And I don't know if they've been to Napa since they moved to Las Vegas, but Napa was always the best spot for training camp. Man, shout out to Shabless. That was a good spot where me, Alexander Scott, and Tommy Call would all hang out before training camp. Something going on, Steven?
Oh, no, I'm just hearing about you going to Napa training camp once again, and I haven't been there. Pretty sweet. This is like the fourth time you mentioned it.
I didn't know you never went. I did not know that. You should have
I'm
come.
so jealous. I'm just jealous, man. I'm so jealous.
Well, you should be because it was a great time. But they're going to LA for training camp. And I know some people in the chat are like, really? Yeah. Apparently, the reason I didn't know about this and many people don't know about this is because they were not allowed to promote it. They actually can't have even fans attend, which was the normal thing for the Raiders for the longest time because Al Davis refused to have fans in attendance for practices. But now with, back together again weekend that NFL Network does, it's a very much a fan-driven thing.
Right.
They have a lot of open dates for training camp.
It's huge.
But the Raiders are not allowed to have fans in attendance, and they're not allowed to promote it because they don't want to take away from the Rams and Chargers being in LA. Now, I don't know why the Cowboys get leeway here, maybe because they've just always gone to LA. But for me, this pretty much is all the proof I need that the Raiders should have gone to LA in the first place.
Interesting.
A big reason that they weren't allowed to go back to LA was because of the criminal element that the fans would bring to the stadium. Cut to, I believe, what was it, 2 years ago? A Raiders and Chargers game, and a Charger fan is beating the crap out of a Raider fan. But I digress. I just think it's stupid. I think they always should have gone back to L.A. The Raiders are huge in L.A. They would totally outdraw the Rams and Chargers. But because of that, they are not even allowed to promote that they are there, which I find to be bullshit.
Yeah, I didn't really. That's an interesting angle that you took because I really wasn't even thinking of it from that standpoint. Because you can sometimes forget about that.
Yep.
You could sometimes forget about those moments. No, they should. They really should have. They were. I know the Chargers are originally from San Diego, but what kind of fan base do they really have? I don't know. And then the Rams too. Like the Rams are the same way. You had a bunch of new Rams fans that just joined Los Angeles. Had the Raiders gone instead of the Rams, God, I don't know. It'd be totally different. But it is an odd move because the way that I thought of it, I didn't really think of it from that deep of an angle. But like Antonio Pierce saying this is like a camaraderie thing, like we're going to be like it's what we liked about him, right? The way that we like to use the word galvanize, the way that he galvanized that squad last year and brought them together. It's like all about camaraderie with him. But I'm like, you guys have your own practice field. Why? Like you could build camaraderie on your own practice field. Why would it take a trip to LA? There's obviously something different at play here that I just
probably
don't
the Heat
it's being revealed. What's up?
Probably the Heat in Vegas.
That's what he kind of brushed that to the side. He's like, I know it's the Heat, but we're talking team camaraderie here. Maybe they're doing other stuff that they don't normally do during training camp. I don't know. But Antonio Pierce trying everything that he can because he knows that with the quarterback that they're at a massive disadvantage compared to the rest of the AFC. Anyone who doesn't think so on that team would be foolish. I know they think they can win every game, but I think they understand that they're going to be the underdogs a lot of the time this year.
No, they probably will be. But you know what? I kind of like it just in the fact that of what you just said, like the camaraderie. They need to build that, and that's how
Yeah.
Antonio Pierce galvanized the team last year. But I don't know, just the whole thing seems weird to me. Like fans aren't allowed to show up. I saw in the chat here, no media, but I gotta think the media has to be there.
I think there's a weird rule with it. I know that Tashawn Reed and Vic Tafer have been there and they're able to ask questions, but I don't think it is open to like a lot of media. I think there's a
wow.
very select few.
Well, that's always been the Raiders' MO. I mean, a year
Right.
ago, my dad was trying to get to the joint practices, and it wasn't just him. It was a lot of people that were excommunicado from going to those practices. So I don't know. Raiders doing weird stuff these days, but if it brings the team together, then who cares? That's all that matters.
I gotta say, like whenever I listen to Max Crosby talk, like if you get a team that can replicate like the work ethic and the attitude that he has towards the season, then I actually think you could have a pretty decent football team. But it's just a question of how many players can actually have that drive and that motor that him and Devontae have. Those two guys are the leaders of this team, and you saw it from that receiver, Doc. Not just because they wore the same outfit a couple of weeks, but because they're cut from the same cloth. I guess they have the same mindset when it comes to working. And I think if the actual team can follow that, I mean, I'm not going to say it's going to translate into wins, but I think it means something.
What do you think about Devontae going on Club Shay Shay and saying that he wants Tom Brady to come out of retirement?
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah.
I think that's a ringing endorsement for either AOC or Minshew.
Dude, here's the thing. I was thinking about it earlier too. If these dudes aren't out there at the podium saying like, hey, this guy's got it. Like this guy has got it. You know what I mean? Like if you're giving a generic answer just about how much they've grown from year one to year two, and he just seems more mature and all that sort of stuff. If you're not like saying with some conviction, like, oh, this guy's the guy, like 49ers, some 49ers players were saying that about Trey Lance, which may not have been right, but then they're even more complimentary of Brock Purdy. And you just don't really hear that with the Raiders and the way that they think of their quarterback. I mean, with any team, whenever they're talking about their quarterback, who's a starter like that.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
not great. I mean, while I think that it was ridiculous for ESPN to push the narrative that Devontae needs to get out of Vegas and go to New York with Aaron Rodgers, that will be in the back of my mind for this season if things do not go well. And everybody's trying to get Brady out of retirement. I don't know if you heard Tim Kawakami's podcast even, but Kyle went in depth, and we knew this because Brock Purdy, I guess, revealed this to everybody, but he made the call to ask Brady to come out of retirement. Well, not out of retirement. He was going to hit free agency after his last year in Tampa, and they were to go all in. And he admitted that they made a mistake with not going after Tom the first time. Basically, Tom campaigning to be the quarterback of the Niners after the Super Bowl run in 2019, and then Kyle saying, "No, thanks, we're good." And then he regretted that and said he reached out, but he told him he was done. So that was interesting to hear. He gave a good answer, and I don't blame him for doing that. The more telling one, which we all kind of expected, but it was speculated, but not really confirmed. Kyle did reach out to Bill Belichick and asked him to be, I guess, an assistant coach or defensive coordinator, and he politely declined. And I don't blame Belichick for doing that either, because at this point in his life, I'm sure he respects Kyle, but at 72 years old and 6 Super Bowl rings, he's like, I don't need to be your defensive coordinator, so I get that.
I'm going to go back to that article, man. That article from The Athletic that detailed how the Shanahans like to keep a close eye on their practices. And whenever they bring in a guy like this, I wonder how they'd respond to that. I wonder if Shanahan would actually do that, because apparently they do have these cameras on in the meeting rooms. And I think Shanahan's perspective is, well, I can't be in all meetings at once, so I could just watch from my office. And there's sometimes, I'm not sure if Kyle did that, but I know his dad would walk in sometimes in just the middle of the meeting and say, no, you need to do this, and kind of do a little bit of micromanaging. I think Shanahan's the same way. Can you imagine that? Bill Belichick's running the defense, and then Shanahan comes in and tells him, hey, no, that's not how we do things here.
Well, maybe get more of a lax Belichick where he's just like, all right, Kyle, go ahead and do what you got to do. I'm going to text my girlfriend here.
yeah, yeah. I gotta send my girlfriend a snap face.
Yeah, I got to send one of these emojis.
I'm still getting used to these apps. Was it Twitbook or now it's X Face? What's happening here?
Yeah, she used the word brat, and I don't even know what that means. By the way, you heard that?
What?
I had that thrown at me today by our younger coworkers. I guess brat's a term now. Like that's so brat. Like
Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
I don't know what the fuck that is.
It's Charlie XCX.
Who?
Charlie XCX. She's a pop artist.
Was she on what's that song? Fancy?
Fancy? Yeah.
Yeah.
You already know.
Yep, I
Yeah.
remember it. That song's like
Yeah.
10 years old.
Yeah, dude. It's actually not a bad song when you listen back to it. But
It's
yeah.
not a bad song, but so she's still doing the pop thing?
Oh yeah, man. She's actually she's different, dude. But yeah, Brat is the name of her album, and it's kind of become an adjective,
Ah.
I guess. Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't know, man. I don't trust. Is it so? Are these younger people? Are they millennials? Are they just a little bit younger than you are? Are these?
No, dude, it's I mean some people
Gen
in the
Zers?
chat know young Tony, who works on the morning show, he threw that term at me and he even said he wasn't aware of it and said it was stupid. So
Yeah.
I basically told him like I'm at the point in my life now where I don't need to know new lingo and nor do I care. So I'm just gonna, and then coming from me, there's a lot of people that are older than me that use the new lingo these days. Where I think I just roll my eyes like, dude, you're trying to sound cool and hip. Like just act your age.
Well, I'm looking
Sorry.
at it. I'm looking at it now. As you told me that you don't care about it. Yeah, I'm looking it up and what its meaning is and what its origin is. But yes, I do know it's from Charlie XCX, and yeah, it's just like a concept, I guess.
All right. Good for her. Let's get to the 49ers and
You already know.
It's not a bad song. 49ers and training camp opening up. I think we were all expecting Brandon Ayuk to be a holdout, and I was surprised yesterday when we got the notification from Ian Rappaport that Brandon Ayuk is going to report to training camp. It's like, all right, well, that's interesting. Kyle and John Lynch spoke like an hour later and said they don't know the details. Anybody could pop in at this moment. They don't know who's reporting, who's not reporting. They kind of played it off like it was no big deal. We'll get into more of what they said yesterday, but I was once that report came out, I was like, okay, well, he's not going to practice. He'll hold in, and sure enough, we got ourselves a good old fashioned hold in, which I know we used this term today already, or this line from Liar Liar today. But holding in could be bad because if you hold it in too much, you can flare up the prostate. It'll be very hard for you to get aroused.
Just gonna let that sit.
You know the line. Don't come on.
We need to come up with a better name for it than hold in. Hold in is terrible. It does not sound right. Just because it's the opposite of a holdout, they're calling it a hold in. Come up with something more original.
Well, by all means, sir, what do you want?
An internal standoff.
Yeah, that sounds sexy.
What, hold in? You want it to sound sexy?
Hold in's just easier.
They are
internal standoff.
They are at an internal standoff.
What about a is there a way you could put like a present protest? They're present. A present practice protest. I like that.
It's a silent protest.
No, what about a present practice protest? They're present. They're not practicing. They're protesting it. Eh?
Little PPP, little triple P.
PPP, you know me.
So it's either PPP or hold in.
Or hold in. Yep.
Or hold in. Jeez.
So yeah, today Brandon Ayuk showed up. He was on the practice field for a very brief amount of time. He wore street clothes, and as practice was going on, then he walked off the field to John Lynch's office. And nothing is materialized. Nothing is new. But this is the way it's going to be probably for a while. And Kyle was asked about, is it at least positive that he's here? And he was like, I don't really know the difference between a hold in or a hold out. And he said, I don't even think we've ever had a hold in before. And how quickly he forgets. 2 years ago, Deebo Samuel held in. He was just running gassers on the sideline for a while. And Jimmy, I mean, that was a weird deal. Like he wasn't really part of the team, but he was there. He was practicing on the side by himself in uniform every day. It was the most awkward thing ever because they couldn't trade him, and he was just there until he got his backup job, and then he ultimately had to start for Trey Lance.
He was on the kickers field.
Yes, he was on the kickers field. Yep.
So for anyone who hasn't been, they got the main practice field right outside of the facility there. They got the main practice field, and then you got the stanchions where they got the fans. Then you got a whole bunch of people in the middle of it. They also got like this private suite area, which looked sick. I don't know how you get in there, but I had a friend get in there once and it looked awesome. But on the other side of that, that's where the kickers are. So we're not even talking like on the same field, even though the field is massive. It's like on a totally separate mini field, like a quarter field of that.
Yeah. So that was a whole thing 2 years ago. Nick Bosa was a full-on holdout. I think there was some speculation that he was going to hold in, but he did not show up all of training camp. He only showed up a mere few days before the opener against the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Steven, were you surprised that Brandon Ayuk showed up at all?
Yeah, of course. You formally request a trade. You do all this stuff on social media. You're in these negotiations. Are you all right? Are you good?
I was delayed for a little while. Go keep talking.
All right. Well, you're doing all these things. It seems like you don't want to play, and you take off those mandatory mini camps. Yeah, that's an indication that they're not going to show up, and it's going to be a contract holdout. And then you look at the fines. You look at a guy who's trying to make $30 million per year, and he doesn't really have any leverage in order to do it. He's still under contract, and you're telling me that, yeah, I'm getting paid half as much as what I want, and you're going to be charging me for that if I miss practice? Yeah, all right, I'm going to show up. This is the classic Brandon Ayuk doing his Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yep.
It's
no, 100%. Yeah, and I don't blame him for doing it. I honestly expected him not to show up at all, but I think that despite Brandon Ayuk's best wishes to make this thing contentious as possible, it's always not as contentious because of the relationship that John Lynch has with his agent. And I did not know this. I knew that John Lynch and Ryan Williams were best friends, but I did not know, Mike Silver said this yesterday, I did not know that John Lynch is represented by Ryan Williams. That is the most conflict of interest you could have. So while he's negotiating his contract, he has to negotiate one of his players. It's very difficult. I remember the same kind of thing. I forget the name of the agent. He came across as a pompous guy in the Johnny Manziel doc. But the same guy that represents Kyler Murray also represented, I think his name is Eric Burkhardt or something like that, but he represented Kyler Murray, Kingsbury, and who was the Cardinals GM back in the day? I forget his name. Bald guy.
Was it Steve Keim?
Steve Keim, yep. He represented all three guys, and that's basically what led to Kyler Murray getting a big fat contract because really bad conflict of interest.
Right.
But I would say this. I think it's a positive sign that Brandon Ayuk showed up for the hold-in, but the way that
the PPP,
the way that John Lynch sounded in that press conference, he sounded exhausted. He sounded emotionally drained. And the Niners have been through a lot of contract negotiations these last 3 training camps. Last year was Nick Bosa, and there was no, there was an absolute answer to last year. They're not trading Nick Bosa. Prior to that, Deebo Samuel. Prior to that, George Kittle. I don't even remember George actually holding out. They think they got the contract done before that. But this seems like the most not contentious or anything, but the most the most emotionally draining contract negotiation out of all of them, just because it feels like there's no progress at the moment. Now maybe it's a positive sign that Ayuk is there, but which means that he may want to. He's trying to get a deal done, but
Dude.
he just had a trade request a week ago. So, and I think it's also draining on Kyle and John Lynch because they know that this probably is going to be it. Um, well, no, I shouldn't say it. This is going to be their best attempt to win the Super Bowl with the full roster that they have compiled together. Because they're going to have to make some hard decisions next season, next off season. But then you throw in something that I don't think many people expected. It was a rumor for a little while, I think, from Jeremy Fowler. But you asked around like Matt Mayoko, and people were like, I don't think this is actually going to come to fruition. It did.
Right.
Trent Williams is a straight up holdout now. And hold in, hold out, baby.
No, it's just the fact that he's holding out with. Does he have like 3 years left on his deal? Doesn't he?
He's got 3 years left on his deal. He currently
such a baller move, dude.
I know
that is G. That is a G thing to do.
But
You hold out. You got 3 years left. You hold out. It's badass.
Yeah, I don't blame him because let's be real. If you look at that offensive line, it's held together pretty much because of Trent Williams. He's been first team All Pro at left tackle the last 3 seasons. The man is arguably the best left tackle in football. But new guys got paid, much younger guys. Christian Darrisaw just became the highest paid left tackle yesterday. He's making $28.5 a year. Prior to that, it was Penei Sewell making 28. Then I want to say it's Laramie Tunsil, and then it's Andrew Thomas with the Giants, and then it's Trent Williams. And I understand his beef because he's like, I'm better than all those guys. Penei Sewell's pretty good though. But as far as like left tackle, like Penei Sewell guards the right tackle spot. Trent Williams gets Brock Purdy's blind side. So he has an argument to be made, but the problem is he has 3 years left on his contract. He's making $20 million this year. He's making $20 the next year. And then he's making, I think, $32 in his last year. And that contract will take him until he's 39 years old.
Right.
So the dilemma you have is Trent Williams is very good. But how much more money are you going to give this to a guy that is definitely on the tail end of his career? He's almost going to be 40 in the next few years here. And it's a year-to-year thing here where we don't know if he's actually going to continue playing football.
Agreed. I still think that it's badass though. Like,
well, of course,
you got Tacky here saying he doesn't have any guaranteed money, and that is absolutely right. But it's still not very common for someone to hold out when they have 3 years left on his deal just because it's not guaranteed. I think players mostly have the mindset like, you know what? If we got 3 years left on this deal, I think they'll get my guarantee soon enough. Like it's a very bold move. It's crazy. But
it's got the same deal with Stafford. I guess he wanted some more guaranteed money for this season.
But I think that with the Ayuk situation, I think, well, it's interesting that you mentioned the agent thing because, like, who's to say that I'm seeing a lot of people blaming Ayuk's agent for how he's handled this. Well, what if Ayuk has been kind of walking to the beat of his own drum? Like if John Lynch and the agent are so close, I can picture the agent saying, like, look, dude, I've been trying to get you this deal, and the best I could get you is this amount of money. And Ayuk is like, nah, I'm not taking that. I got other teams that are willing to pay me something. I'll go to the practice, but like, I'm not going to do anything. And I'm interested with how John Lynch wants to handle it, because I can also picture John Lynch saying, I got a ton of guys that I got to pay in the future. And if I'm including my quarterback, who we're going to pay the farm for him, or sell the farm for him, we're going to do whatever it takes to pay him. And then Ayuk, you pay him $30 million. Do you really think he wants to lock up $80 million total for a quarterback and wide receiver combo? Like, I think their best chance to win a Super Bowl may be this year, like their last best chance. But I think if they're going to be perennial playoff contenders for years to come, I could see John Lynch saying, look, 3 or 4 years down the line, I got other pieces that I want to pay here. And I got these guys on the defense that are fitting in really well. I got one guy who could become one of maybe the second best linebacker in football, right behind Fred Warner, in Dre Greenlaw, who eventually will want to pay. Talanoa Hufunga's another guy. Like, there's there's other people that you got to pay, and Ayuk's there at just a really unfortunate time. Like if he were there during the Debo Samuel years, where it's like, all right, all I got to beat out is what AJ Brown for a new contract. That's the only other guy who's going to set the market other than me. Maybe Terry McLaurin was in that conversation. I guess Devontae was there too, and Tyreek Hill. I guess a lot of those guys were getting paid, but still, Debo I think had it easier than Ayuk.
No, definitely, because these guys are making ridiculous amounts of money. I think that Justin Jefferson making 35 a year changed things, and the expectation is now like, okay, well, 30's where we start, and I'm sure the Niners are like, no. And we know the report from Michael Silver, who said that 26 a year was the offer, and
Right.
Ayuk is not thrilled about that. And then yesterday, like this was the expectation as well that Amari Cooper was going to hold out. He got a $5 million raise, so he's currently going to get $20 million guaranteed on his remaining contract, and he's going to be in the final year of his deal, so he's just taking more money in the final year. And you wonder if the Niners maybe would do that with Ayuk if things got contentious enough. But I don't think that they want to do that. I think they want to lock him up, and I think it's just a matter of, is Ayuk willing to settle for less than 30?
Right.
So that's where things stand. With Trent Williams, you need him. I think they need Ayuk, but they can also get by with potentially not having him. You need Trent Williams. So he has a lot more leverage.
Well, listen to the way the guys talk about him. It's going back to your original point, because I kind of went off on an Ayuk tangent, though I'm making solid points on this 243rd episode. Did miss the original thing you were talking about, which was John Lynch's press conference. Yeah, he actually didn't look disheveled. Sometimes he does. Mm-hmm. We've seen him a lot in these contract negotiations, and there's been a time where he's like he's had the collared shirt and the top button is kind of raggedy and his hair is kind of off and he just looks tired. He's had that happen, but he looked just like John Lynch always looks today. It's just like a kind of laid back, cool dude. But then you hear him talk about it and you're like, oh my God, he's really getting tired of this. Like John Lynch he's one of the best, I'd say, talkers in the NFL. The man always knows what to say, right? He always seems to have like a level head, and it's not like he made a total turn this in this go around, but in this one, it's like, all right, there's something different with these negotiations, like whether it was the trade stuff or just the lack of actually having a direct answer. He says all the right things. We want him to be a Niner. We expect everyone to practice, but there's no direct answer.
No absolutes.
And no absolutes. There hasn't been this entire time that he's talked.
Yeah, the yesterday was usually, like, I remember in years past, their opening season press conference has been more, jovial and fun. This seemed like strictly business. Like, all right, let's just get through this because we know we're going to get peppered with Ayuk questions. And I think you're right, Steven. I think that Ayuk, if Ayuk is upset with the way that Ryan Williams has handled negotiations, that he would have changed things by now. But he probably trusts him. I think that he's gone rogue, and I think that the only reason that it hasn't gotten so bad is because of the relationship between Lynch and Ryan Williams. So I think everything that Brandon Ayuk has done has been on his own volition. Whether it's all the TikTok videos or the FaceTime with Jaden Daniels, the Pivot podcast interview, it's all been Brandon Ayuk, in my opinion. And I think that Ryan Williams has probably saved the relationship just because of his closeness with John Lynch. But yeah, this has probably been the most frustrating one for John Lynch,
for sure. It's also, I think Kyle Shanahan's not really reacting to it. He's saying like they love Brandon Ayuk and doing all these things, but he does not seem confident that they'll get something happening, kind of like he did with Trent Williams. Like, it's probably a nothing burger. And I kind of like to read the transcripts as opposed to listening, because sometimes the transcripts might tell you a little bit more than when you're actually listening to it, because they can give you a word salad at times.
Yeah.
But when he says, when he's talking about how concerning if it's that Williams is not there. He said, I was hoping he'd be here, but I knew it could be a possibility. I feel pretty confident it'll all work out in the long run and he'll be here and we'll get on the same page with everything. But it's just one day at practice. And I think Trent will be all right missing a few practices. Yeah, he didn't sound like that with Ayuk. He just sounded like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on with that. I appreciate it. I support him, but I'm not really confident. I don't know.
Because I think that Trent's deal is more of a fix. And Ayuk's deal is an adjustment. Or sorry, I should say a commitment. Like Trent Williams' deal potentially could be an adjustment to just a little more money, but the years and figures are all there. For Brandon Ayuk, it's how long do you guys love me for? And Kyle knows they need Trent Williams, so they're not going to fuck around here with that, in my opinion. Brandon Ayuk, I still think they keep him, but I do think that maybe in the end that both parties just say maybe we just kick you a little more money. Maybe this 14 million this year turns to 18 or 20, and then next year, if you're that pissed off, you can go leave a free agency.
I think that's what they're going to do.
So you don't think they get a deal done?
I don't think so.
No,
like, I really don't. I think they go into it and he's playing on this final year of his option, and I think it's a very risky move.
Yeah.
Or like we mentioned last week, they get so tired of it, they just say, all right, you know what, we're going to trade you. It's just funny. I am hearing like a lot of they're not going to be the same offense without Ayuk. Their offense can't or produce like it did last year without Ayuk. And I'm sure that's all true based on film study and based on everything. But you know who doesn't believe that? The guy who's calling the plays.
Yeah.
Shanahan don't believe that.
Yeah.
Shanahan thinks he can win. If you have a guy like Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Kyle Juszczyk, Jawan Jennings, Deebo Samuel, I think he has I think he has the utmost confidence that he can win with that roster without him. Like, I really do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they value Ayuk, but I don't think they think this of him the same way that Aqib Talib said today with Kay Adams that he's a top 3 receiver. I don't think the Niners view him that way.
Yeah.
And by the way, like in that same interview, he goes, "Yeah, like if Ayuk got like a real quarterback, Brock's good. Like I'm tired of all this like negative, just negative narrative around him. But like it's
you kind of fed into that though.
Well, I'll get into it more. Like, okay,
I dare you to say Jordan Love is better than Brock Purdy. I dare you.
Jordan Love is better than Brock Purdy.
I dare you to type that out on Twitter and see what the reaction would be.
I already hear it. There, we got one guy that works in our social media department that when I say that every day, he's like, you don't believe that. You don't believe that. I'm like, I do believe that. Brock Purdy is a good quarterback. Is he worth $60 million a year? No, but that's what he's going to get, and probably more. We'll get to that. But yeah, I don't know. I think that Ayuk should get the $28 million that Jalen Waddle got, and I think that's an appropriate amount. But I guess it's not going to happen.
Tacky has an interesting one here. My memory may be off, but I thought Debo's was more contentious. It was kind of different, wasn't it?
On a personal level,
it was different because Deebo, although he was kind of, didn't he like go to Miami and he was at like a club and everyone was super pissed off that he was at a club and doing all these different things outside of the 49ers. It didn't feel like it was as direct as Brandon Ayuk's was. Like Brandon Ayuk is going on Twitter and tweeting at a Steelers head coach. He's going on TikTok literally from his account and posting things from a point of view. Like everything you saw with Deebo Samuel was what you heard from reporters or saw from random people with the phone. It wasn't always from Deebo himself like it's been with Ayuk.
The worst thing I saw with Deebo that I remember is he was in a club and someone was like, it was his birthday or something, and someone was like, Deebo come back to the Niners in a sign, and he like the camera pans at him and he goes, no.
Yeah.
And that's how worst it got. There were rumors.
It definitely was contentious though, like with the Ayuk thing, and maybe we are kind of taking away from what it was like in 2022 with Deebo. Yeah, it wasn't all sunshines and rainbows with these contract negotiations. It was by far the worst when you're comparing them to guys like Williams and Warner and Kittle and all those guys.
Yeah, like the Debo thing, he wanted a certain amount of money, but he didn't want to be the highest paid guy. And like that was the summer where Tyreek got his new deal and Devontae got traded to the Raiders. But the younger guys like DK Metcalf got a new deal, Terry McLaurin got a new deal, and ended up having to be where AJ Brown got traded to the Eagles. And Debo, I think it was not like was kind of in the middle there. And that was when things were kind of more reasonable. Now we get to the $30 million range, and now you're like, well, that's a big chunk of salary. Although that was a big amount, and AJ Brown just got paid again. He went from being a 25-year guy to a $32 million guy now. So things have changed.
This actually, you know what? This brings me to a question. What do you think was the more interesting draft as far as like a trade? Like whether you thought Debo was going to get traded in the 2022 draft or whether Ayuk was going to get traded in this one? Which one was more like, oh, this could happen? Because I actually remember the Debo one and thinking to myself, dude, Debo might get traded.
Yeah.
Like I thought it could happen.
Well, I think you and I at one point thought that Brandon Ayuk was going to get traded.
Right. Pretty convinced. Damn.
The Debo one, if I remember correctly, he had the trade request go through a week before the draft. Mm-hmm. So there was a little amount of time that this actually could come to fruition. As far as Ayuk, it was all off season where we were thinking that something was going to happen. Now he never formally requested a trade, but there were so many things where you were like, are they going to have to trade him? Yeah. This one's gone. I mean, just mentally for me, like I'm exhausted on this topic. Like I'm honestly tired of it. But
glad we talked about it for like a half hour.
Well, it is what it is. He did as long as Tacky's happy with what we're talking about. I think that I don't see the Ayuk one ending anytime soon. The Debo one, that was a couple days into training camp, and then it was done. So this one could get more contentious, in my opinion. The Debo one, I think it was more because there was something personal that happened between him and Kyle. That was the issue.
Right.
And that was resolved quickly.
Yeah.
This one is not more personal. It's just that Brandon Ayuk just wants to be treated like one of the best receivers of football.
Do you think it's kind of overblown to call this the 49ers' last dance?
I don't. Because while those is it overblown?
I do.
How so then? How so?
Well, because the last dance is something like the Bulls, where it's Michael Jordan, the greatest player of all time. He's leaving. Everyone else on that team is leaving. Really, they're blowing it all up next year. You know what's going to happen. That is truly a last dance. Like this may be the best chance this may be the best chance in a while that the 49ers will have to actually win the Super Bowl. But like to me, this is still going to be a playoff team as long as you keep the likes of Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey for a couple of more years. Like this is going to be one like the Warriors on the back end where, you may not be the best team in the league, but you're certainly there and you can make it and you're still a playoff contender. And when you get there, because of that experience, other teams are going to fear you. I think that's when the 49, I think a lot of people think the San Francisco's kind of overrated this year. So they're not as scared. They're thinking they could, be the Goliath that beats David. But like in a few years from now, I think San Francisco is going to be that one underrated team that no one's talking about with more experience than any of these other teams in the postseason. I think that's a team to watch. Watch out for them. That's good. It's going to be like in 2029.
Yeah. No, I mean, the last dance term is thrown out so much these days because everybody watched it during COVID. And we also
I just don't get it. I don't get we all watch it.
It's used way too much. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams tweeted out the training camp, their last year together in Green Bay. They tweeted out a photo of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. We just use that term a lot now, last dance. And no, it is not the same because the Niners have not won anything like the Bulls have or had back in the day. So yeah, I agree with you, Steven. But as far as like, is this their last chance as the full squad? Yeah, it is.
For sure. But you're still going to have your key players moving forward, and I think those types of guys are going to get you to the playoffs. And you know what, man? At the end of the day, the NFC still runs through them. Like, I was thinking about this. I know the Lions have been fantastic and they've been on the up and up, but I need to see them do it again. I need to see them continue to perform at a high level because we saw it with one season. They were great last year and they could potentially be the biggest contender or biggest, I guess you could say, most dangerous opponent of the 49ers in the NFC, but I still need to see it from them. I think the Eagles are interesting because you don't really know what to expect with coaching and everything, but I don't know. I don't really feel any different about the NFC going into this year as I did last year. Maybe it's a little bit improved, but it feels like the 49ers are just a level above every team in that conference.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as on paper, yes, I think that they are the best team in the NFC. But there's, this stuff with the contracts could screw things up. I do think the Lions are right up there, Eagles as well, Cowboys. If everything goes according to plan with them, I don't know what they're gonna do with their contracts.
Yeah, you can't. Well, you can't ever take the Cowboys seriously, Derek. We know what they're going to do. They're going to have a stretch in the
I know, but just as
last
far as
year.
like teams that compete in the NFC, I hear you.
Dak Prescott's going to have that one 400-yard game where he throws for 4 touchdowns, maybe 1 interception, and the Cowboys are looking like the best offense in the NFL. And they have a 5-week run where they look like the best team, and everyone has them as contenders for the rest of the season. Then they just fall flat in the divisional round.
Now that's probably going to happen. I think that's what Jerry Jones is hoping is going to happen because I don't think he wants Mike McCarthy to be his head coach anymore.
Yeah.
But just real quick, CeeDee Lamb is really holding out, and he's sacrificing $40K a day. Is it $40K a day?
Yep. At least it is with the Niners. I think it changes with each team.
I want to say I saw on Adam Schefter's tweet that it's $40K a day for CeeDee Lamb. That's insane. Yeah. We agree that CeeDee Lamb should be paid more than Ayuk, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think most people would agree with that. I think CeeDee Lamb wants to make more than Justin Jefferson, which I'm like, I don't know about that. Maybe 32 a year. I give that to CeeDee Lamb. But 35, the same amount as Justin Jefferson, I haven't seen it consistently enough that makes you the best wide receiver in football.
Right. Like but I also think that among these top wide receivers, like even if they do pay him, I don't feel great about the Cowboys moving forward. If like the Vikings paying Justin Jefferson, like I don't feel great about the Vikings during his time when he's going to be getting paid as much as any non-quarterback in the NFL. Like
that's hush money though.
What's that?
That's hush money. That's them being like, you're the best. We know you are.
Yeah.
Just tolerate us with the down years for right now, and hopefully we got the guy that'll make you happy.
I just don't think that, 49ers need to do that. I just don't think they need it.
Yeah.
They don't need a number one wide receiver, really. Like Brandon Ayuk was certainly a luxury, and he's kind of what brought the big plays to that offense, at least the long yardage in the air plays. I mean, obviously they got the yards after contact because they throw a bubble screen that can go for 80 yards to the house by Debo. But I think they can get a lot of wide receivers to not do exactly what Ayuk did, but I think run through the system of that offense to where it can be really efficient. You're muted.
I agree, Steven. Let's move over to the quarterbacks real quick.
Okay.
So a lot of holdouts right now. Trent Williams. No, not a lot actually. Just 3 of note. Trent Williams, CeeDee Lamb, and Hassan Reddick. This one, like Jesus, you traded for the guy, and I guess he lied to them. That's the story that's not been told. Is that when they traded for him, they were like, "Look, we are willing to work out a deal, but you got to come to training camp, you got to come to mini camp, you got to come to all that stuff. And he said, yeah, sure. And it didn't happen. So somewhere Howie Roseman is just laughing maniacally at Joe Douglas and the Jets for making, taking this problem off their hands. But another Holden of note is Jordan Love. And a lot of people are like,
PPP, Derek.
yes, Jordan Love is PPPing, and he wants to make, I'm sure, 56 to 60 million a year. And a lot of people are going to be like, that's insane. He only played well for half of the season last year. I hear you on all of that. It is a gigantic risk with him. But what are your other options? And in the latter portion of the season, he looked great. He did look great. Like that playoff game against the Cowboys, he shredded that defense. And with the exception of 2 boneheaded interceptions to Dre Greenlaw against the Niners, he was lighting up the Niners defense too. I know this is going to sound nuts, and I know a lot of people are like, you can't pay this guy that amount of money. I would, based on everybody else available for contracts this offseason, Dak Prescott, Tua, Jordan Love, if you have to give one guy $60 million a year, yeah, I just based on the potential, I would give it to Jordan Love. I think this guy's going to be really good. And yes, based on just the pure athleticism and mechanics of this guy, Brock Purdy's very good, and I don't think he deserves all the negativity that he gets as just a system quarterback and all that bullshit. He's very good. But is he Jordan Love? No. I think Jordan Love's better.
It's just
Why is that crazy? Why is that crazy?
Because he had one good half of a season.
I understand that, but in that time, you could just see, like, okay, Robert Griffin has been pissing me off on many levels the last few days. Like after Biden,
I had to unfollow.
After Biden drops off, well, all right, guys, who do you want to see be president? This is a safe space. Bullshit, it is. Just stop. And then Robert Griffin tweets out, if you have an issue with Tua Tagovailoa making more money than Jordan Love, who only played a certain amount of snaps this season, and he has more career touchdowns and more career yards, then something's wrong with you, and you have a vendetta against Tua, then guilty is charged. I've watched both guys, and I know that it's more tape on Tua than there is on Jordan Love. I see a lot more mistakes than Tua, and I know it's just a small sample size, but I do like the potential of Jordan Love way better than Tua Tagovailoa. So amongst these guys, Dak, Tua, Jordan Love, and potentially Brock Purdy next offseason, I am definitely paying Jordan Love out over all of them.
I'm not saying that they shouldn't pay him. I just think it's very bold that you're that saying it with that much conviction. I mean, it's just he was kind of a top 3 MVP finalist, and he was the quarterback when the offense had a historic year in terms of the amount of 1,000-yard players that they had. Like,
I'm not denying any of that, Stephen. I hear you, but I'm big on, can you plug and play this guy in any team and have success? I think if you put Jordan Love on most of the teams in the NFL, he would be successful.
Well, sure.
I can't say the same thing about Purdy.
But what about but Brock Purdy and the 49ers? What does it matter if they're going to plug and play with any team? I think the way that Purdy fits with the 49ers, who cares about that? Like, if you're talking to me from that standpoint, sure, I'd pay Jordan Love more, but Purdy has shown that he thrives in this offense and understands it and can lead it and do all those different things. I understand Jordan Love is really good too. I'm not trying to take anything away from him, but I just think it's bold. But I hear you, and we'll see what he gets paid this hold in, because it looks like he will.
Yeah, he will. I mean, by the time that you guys hear this tomorrow morning on the podcast version of this, he might have already signed. My whole thing is, okay, do I want to pay him $56 million a year? No, I don't. Like, I think things are ridiculous now. I think only a certain amount of quarterbacks should make $50 million a year. But that's just the way the market is. So if the market has gone to this point, then yes, I would pay Jordan Love $56 to $60 million a year. Now, I'm also not naive. I do think that Jordan Love's going to get paid. Then there'll be a contract for Tua. then we'll see about Dak. I don't think it's a done deal that the Cowboys pay Dak. I think that they really want to go into the season having him fight for it. And then next season, yeah, I'm not stupid. Like Jed York already said it. They're going to pay Purdy, and this is what this all is about with Ayuk as well. Brock Purdy's going to make more money than Jordan Love. Now, what do I disagree with that? Yes, but is that going to happen? Yeah, it totally is, and that's just the way the market is now. And not taking anything away from Brock Purdy, he fits so well with the Niners. And if it's worth paying $60 to $65 million a year for him to run that offense, then by all means, that's the right thing to do.
I have an interesting theory on the Dak Prescott thing because you mentioned
Lay it on me,
and that sparked something. I'm gonna go with this, but I think CeeDee Lamb is gonna get paid what he wants. I think they really like him. I don't think they're going to pay Dak up to the market standard, whatever it is, just an exorbitant 50 to 55 million. Like that's just crazy, I think, for Dak.
I mean, Diana Rossini was saying today he's in the 60 million ballpark right now.
Jesus. Well, I think they're going to find it better long term if they end up giving or letting Dak Prescott go in free agency. They end up giving Trey Lance cheap little contract, and they have him be the starting quarterback moving forward because you're getting a quarterback for cheap. It's like having a quarterback on a rookie deal almost, except you're going to have him on like a cheap 2-year deal as opposed to a 4-year deal with a 5th-year option.
Your theory's not crazy by any means, because that is definitely why they traded for him. They knew that this was going to come to this point. They'd rather pay CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons over having to pay Dak Prescott $60 million a year. And if it's not the Cowboys, it may be the Raiders next offseason. So I don't think that's crazy at all. Just be you're talking about bold moves. That's a bold ass move, man. To go to Dak to Trey Lance. That I know a lot of guys, thought that he got a raw deal with the Niners. I don't think he's ready to just, be starting quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys anytime soon. I would rather have Cooper Rush over him right now.
What if they are like the Raiders and they're just out of the playoff race and they've moved on from their quarterback like Derek Carr and they just make Dak Prescott sit out the next couple of games because there's probably some secret injury guarantee that we don't know about? Like
that's smart on you. 3 years in a row, it could be the case where it was Derek 2 years ago. It was Russell Wilson a year ago. It could be Dak Prescott with the same deal. You're not off on that.
Trey Lance comes out in week 15.
God, can you imagine that? The Cowboys are out of it, and Mike McCarthy, knowing that he's not going to have a job anymore, just trouts out Trey Lance. Ugh.
Ernie, I think, had it. Dak to the Raiders. That's probably could be the move.
Yeah, I think that's what they're waiting on.
Could be the move. I think we just wrote out the NFL script for the Cowboys for the next year. So there we go.
Who do you think deserves $60 million amongst the bunch?
60?
Dude, someone's going to get it.
The only one who's worth that amount is probably like Mahomes. And he's already making $40 million until 2056.
And that's what sucks. Because if you look at Mahomes and, Josh Allen, they got to be like, well, what the hell's going on here? These guys are not nearly as good as us. But let's play this game because it's going to happen. Like, this is a realistic game. Jordan Love, Tua, Dak, Brock. Who deserves to get 60?
Lamar Jackson.
Not even him deserves to get 60.
Then I don't know. That's too much money. That's too much money to fathom.
No, that's fair. That's fair. Speaking of Burrow, do you like the haircut?
I don't care about the haircut.
Oh, you usually care about this shit. Come on.
Do I like it? Sure. Do I care about it though? Not really.
Yeah.
But
I saw it. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's a weird look. It's just anytime I see that, I always think of like the real Slim Shady and how He had a bunch of real Slim Shadys around at the Grammys, and there's just a whole bunch of blonde dudes. That's what he looks like. He
Yeah.
looks like Eminem's side. He looks like Eminem's role supporting cast in the real Slim Shady performance at the Grammys. That's what it looked like.
I think there was
Or is it the MTV Movie Awards or whatever? The VMAs.
It was the VMAs. It was the VMAs.
Ah.
Because I remember, was that the year Chris Rock was going off on people?
I don't know.
I just remember Eminem being in the crowd and just like laughing like his ass off at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't really care. Like, yeah, like it's different. Like I think at one point we all thought that Joe Burrow was rocking like the Anakin Skywalker look with his hair, and then he went full Eminem. And
right, well, that was a fake. The long hair was a fake.
No, right? No. I know. That's what I'm saying. Like we all thought it was real.
Yeah.
And then he just goes completely opposite, and does the Eminem look, which kind of makes him look, I don't know, like that look to me is like just so, talking about like outdated. Like that's 25 years old. Like Eminem doesn't even look that way anymore. He comically makes fun of the way he looked back in the day. Which, by the way, did you listen to the new album?
I didn't yet. I listened to a little bit of it. I haven't listened to the full thing.
Yeah, Taggy's like, if we're up to me on the topics of this podcast, we'd be talking about that album for an hour. It was good. It was really
by
good.
the way, I created a tweet comparing Joe Burrow's hair to the bully from Kazam. This joke, I think, just went right over everyone's heads. Like no one.
Nah, if I saw that, I would have liked that.
It's my least, like, it's my unpopular opinion. The one where they post the meme from Tangled where the guy has all the swords poking at him, and you're just like, yeah, mine is Kazam's a good movie.
I turned it on during I turned it on during the pandemic a couple years ago. Well, during the pandemic, so 4 years ago. I started it. Couldn't say I finished it.
Oh yeah, yeah, Kazam, baby. I owe the coffee on the cream. It's badass. By the way, you can't really see it. You can see it at the last second, but the guy on the left in that GIF, that was the guy who ended up playing Pedro in Napoleon Dynamite. So
no way, really?
Yeah.
See, Steven, if I would have saw this tweet, I would have liked it. Unlike you that sees most of my tweets and thinks, that's good. But I'm not gonna get there to satisfaction.
I don't see anyone's anymore. The algorithm.
You have me muted or something.
No, I don't have you. I swear I don't have you muted. I got quite a few people muted, but I don't have you muted. And
I know who they are.
And well, it's just it's almost everyone. But like on my For You page, it's just
I can't like you click on anything once, and they think I'm like people think like Twitter must think I'm like into Talk Tua way more than I am.
Right.
I promise everyone I'm not.
Ernie, no, you're not muted. The people I mute is just like anyone who feels the need to tweet out every single thought that they have through every single day. I don't mute you. I don't mute people permanently. I mute people for a little bit of time because I'm just like, I need a break from your mind.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Just give me a break from your mind for a bit. All right. I need a couple of months off.
Speaking of people that we either mute or block on Twitter, Steven, what was your favorite moment of the press conference with Kyle and John?
Well, the Grant thing was funny.
I loved it because Kyle could be snarky with the media, but his line to Grant of, well, I'm sure that's not what I said, and knowing you, that's probably, well, I'm butchering it, but basically Grant Cohn recites a quote from 2 years ago with Debo and the closeness that Kyle feels with him. And Kyle's like, well, knowing you, I probably didn't say that at all. So I thought that was just beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I don't really have a problem with Grant at all because I've met him a couple of times and he's always been super cool. So I got nothing personally, but yes, that moment was objectively funny for any reporter. That was just, it was just, I don't remember. Probably didn't say that knowing you, but it's like,
that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And even John Lynch couldn't help but laugh at that as well.
Yeah. I think, but I I have a feeling I don't know him obviously, but I
Yeah.
think Grant has a pretty good idea of sometimes what they think. He can ask some unwanted questions. I'll say that. That's
Yeah, yeah, I'll agree with that. Lastly, amongst like the mini camp stories, or not mini camp, sorry, we're in training camp. This was a huge mini camp thing. Aaron Rodgers came back. He told the world that he went to Egypt, and it just sounds like Robert Saleh wanted to flex his nuts a little bit and say like, all right, so Aaron isn't here. I'm not moving the mini camp. I'm not moving OTAs, and yeah, that's the end of it. And you know what? I don't mind that because Robert Saleh, the way that things looked a year ago on Hard Knocks was like, we are just so grateful to have Aaron Rodgers here. And now it's turned into a little bit of, we can't be so grateful. He is just one guy on this 53-man roster. So this season's got to be different. It can't just be Aaron Rodgers as the savior. And we can't have all of his friends. We're not just going to sign Randall Cobb or Mercedes Lewis. If we could get Devontae Adams, that's one thing because he's a great player. But we're not just going to cater to Aaron Rodgers anymore. So I thought this was Robert Saleh just being like, yeah, he's not here. It's an unexcused absence. We know he went to Egypt, and that's fine. He's allowed to do that. But I'm not giving him a pass. I'm still going to do my scheduled training camp or my scheduled OTAs. And I think it's much ado about nothing. But I don't mind Robert. Like I saw like on McAfee, they were like kind of questioning Robert Saleh doing this, and I'm like, Robert Saleh's allowed to do it. He's the coach of the team.
You want to talk about something I'm tired of? It's Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, that's fair.
At the end, this is a non-starter. I'm really curious. So a lot of the team's not going to care, but what does Garrett Wilson think? Like,
Yeah,
that's my main thing. And I ain't
well, he talked
catching it.
glowingly about Garrett Wilson today.
Did he?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Well, you got that. All right.
Yeah. I mean, he knows who his number one is, and even if they got Devontae, there's a case to be made that Garrett Wilson would be the younger guy. So
yeah. Rodgers, I go back and forth with him, dude. Like
he's tiring. He is tiring.
I can listen to him. I used to think he was actually like really witty, really smart. But then like you just hear some of the shit that he spews, and you're like, Rodgers, you got to be kidding me, man! like, what are you talking about? He just sounds like he's paranoid, like 24/7, just about the world, just about life in general, and how everyone's out to get him. But then you see him at like a celebrity golf tournament. Like no one's calling him out for any of that. Like he's still Aaron Rodgers, and you hear stories of people hanging out with him, and you're like, nah, he's like just a cool dude, like really cool. So I go back and forth with that guy.
That was the effect last year because everybody felt a certain way about him while he was with the Packers, and then when he went to New York and he was going to like every Ranger game and every Nick game, and then Hard Knocks happened. Everybody's like, this guy's the best.
Yeah.
And then he tore his Achilles, and then he started doing interviews again with McAfee, talking about crazy shit. And everybody's like, Aaron, stop. That's where I draw the line. And this is something that I think a lot of people are going to have to get used to this November, unfortunately. Let's not care so much what our athletes are into politically. Like you have to turn that off sometimes. I'm like, it's going to be tough. Like I don't think a lot of people were, necessarily. I think a lot of people were surprised when Max Crosby was, with the day that Trump was shot at, he went on his whole thing on Twitter. I think a lot of people just got to separate the two. It's tough. It is. But if you want to just enjoy sports, I think you got to separate the two.
Yeah, you're going to have to in the future here because it's going to get very divisive. And I think that when sports is brought to the forefront of that, like we've seen how things can go, whether it's, NBA players protesting during the Black Lives Matter movement or Colin Kaepernick kneeling for the flag and all that sort of stuff. I mean, we saw it firsthand in sports radio, just how delicate things like that can be. And I think it's going to be like that a lot this year.
Well,
the next 4 years, whatever.
Yeah. I think it's also hypocritical because I think those same people that say, shut up and dribble are the same people that'll be like, yeah, devil rays, or not the Devil Rays, the Rays, like the players like doing like the Trump thing celebration or like doing the ear thing. Like you can't have it both ways. You can't
Yeah.
have it both ways. You can't say shut up and dribble, and then when it comes to making a political statement with a Trump thing, you'd say like, oh, that's not politics. Of course it is. Of
Yeah.
course it is.
It's so divisive that you have late night talk show hosts taking one side or another. Like it used to be, the talk show host would just make fun of both sides with everything. And
Dude, that's why I don't watch most late night talk shows anymore because I miss the days of Conan where he was just having a masturbating bear on.
yeah, yeah. My I think like my favorite presidential gag was when David Letterman would have the great moments in presidential history or presidential speech
Yep.
history, and they would play like John F. Kennedy, like it's not what you ask, not what the country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. And this is a day that will live in infamy. And then like, and then you got George Bush just out there like, we gotta watch out for the raccoons. Scary. And then like just that is
Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, it was different then because it just felt like everybody just made fun of Bush, whether you were liberal or conservative. It was just like a fun thing to do. It wasn't like so contentious like it is now. Like it's like,
Oh
gee,
yeah.
like you're coming after like me personally. I was like, no, we're just riffing on politicians.
Nah, the I think the flashbacks from the debates between John McCain and Barack Obama, like they're really or against Mitt Romney, for example, too.
Yeah.
Like the mutual respect there. It's something that you do not see.
No,
There's a
you do
lot
not.
there's a lot that's changed over the past decade. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, and I think that sports kind of followed a little bit with that, just having these debates. Like there used to be a time where you just had different opinion on, a sports show, and now it's like, well, you're an idiot, and that's
Yeah.
where it gets phony to me.
By the way, Robbie Ray just made his first start.
Pitching well.
He's taken out of the game. It looks like his night's done, but he gave up the run in the first inning because he was just wild and out of control. But he didn't give up a hit.
Oh wow,
He didn't give up a single Dodgers hit.
I like that. Is he out? But he's not finishing the game.
No, he's taken out after the
8 Ks.
fifth inning.
Hey,
Yeah, man.
how about that?
Yeah.
Which
Damn.
brings me to my next topic, because a week from yesterday will be the MLB trade deadline, and we haven't talked about this, Steven. Did you hear Farhan's comments on our show?
No, I did not.
Okay, so Farhan came on with us a couple weeks ago and basically said, if we keep playing the way we keep playing, we're going to make some changes on this team, and we're going to sell. We have to be sellers if this is going to continue, and we may have to get younger players. And I was kind of surprised by that, and that quote kind of blew up, and it, I think a lot of people, the reaction to it was, we like the message, but we don't like the messenger because it's Farhan. And I thought it was very interesting that Farhan felt that way, because to me it seemed like a make or break season for Farhan, yes, but also like he's got the contract, and maybe he just feels that he has job security, that he can make that comment and sell, or maybe he needs to sell to save his job. But I thought it very interesting, a guy that has not been to the playoffs consistently during his tenure can just say, well, if this team's not good, then we're going to sell. Like not a lot of GMs are given that leeway.
Well, yeah, that's the thing about this is this is not a move to save his job. This is a move because the team he's built is not very good, or he's had a part in building, because I don't know what the dynamics are between the front office members and who chooses who makes what hire. I know Farhan's kind of the face of it and he's kind of the last decision maker, but I don't know what the dynamic is, dude. It just feels like, I don't want to say this because I don't want to say, at least it will happen this year or even next year. But dude, if this team continues to just ride below the at the bottom of the National League West and just coasting in the fourth or fifth spot and just continuing to lose to teams like the Dodgers. I mean, they're going for a win tonight, but if you continue to perform the way that you perform like they have, look at that team across the bay. That fan base has people screaming that chant, sell, 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 if they want their respective owner to sell. And if the Giants continue on this path, I wouldn't be surprised if the sell chants make their way to Oracle Park and they're like, we just need new ownership. We need to start from the top down or from the top.
Wow. Did you feel that way?
Close to it, because I think a lot of people are realizing that with their certain, should I say, real estate aspirations and what they're doing beyond right field and the amount of money that they're putting into a very specific part of San Francisco, and how it feels like they're putting most of their focus on that as opposed to the baseball team. Yeah. I mean, I think they're far away from that. I think they're very far away from that, but I think a lot can happen. Maybe depending on what happens in this election too.
It all comes back to that.
You know, like it's unfortunate, but
I hear you.
I'm not saying it's going to happen. I think it's very, again, it's really, really far from that. But I think A's fans have kind of woken some other fans up and said, look, man, if we're not happy with ownership, we can let them know.
Well, no question. And there was, definitely the appropriate feelings of A's fans to feel that way. And I still feel that way. But that's interesting you say that, Steven. I can't speak for Giants fans if they're there yet, but if you feel that way, then I'm sure there's a lot of people that feel that way.
I'm not feeling that way just yet. I'm more thinking of just like the future. Like, what if it is looking like this? What if you do turn into, I don't know, the Colorado Rockies, where you just don't look like you have any sense of where you're going? Like, this was meant to be it. This time here.
Well, when you say it, what does it mean for this season?
When Farhan joined this team, he signed a bunch of international players. He was touted as this guy who has this eye for talent. He's helped build the A's. He's helped build the Dodgers. Like, this is the guy to do the job. And when he stacks the team with guys who are top prospects, like a Marco Luciano, like Luis Matos, international signings there. Obviously, what they've done in the draft with Patrick Bailey and Hunter Bishop was another one. Everyone's kind of just forgotten about Hunter Bishop, but it was supposed to be all those guys. Elliot Ramos is another one who's panned out, but he has cooled off as of late. He hasn't looked good since the All-Star break. Like, I think I just think at this point, this is when that was supposed to be your starting lineup. It wasn't supposed to be filled with Michael Conforto and Mike Yastrzemski and, I don't know, Nick Ahmed as your opening day shortstop. It wasn't meant to be like that. You were meant to have your core guys by now.
He's a Dodger now.
And a majority, he is a Dodger now. And a majority of them haven't really worked out. So, and they still, Elliot Ramos, I mean, I'm not going to overreact here. I still think he's a very good player. But, he had a great half of a season. We've seen that with a lot of players. They're great for a few months and kind of just make a name for themselves and then just drop off. And then you find they're kind of an average 250, 260 hitter who can give you maybe 14 home runs in a season, along with, I don't know, an average 70 to 80 RBIs. Like, that's what they could turn into. You don't have a guy who's like a bona fide superstar.
Well, we will see what happens in a week as the trade deadline approaches.
Their most promising guy, they set him down. They set down Birdsong. I know, I get all the rationale behind it, but
he'll be back.
Out a way. He'll be back, but still, it's like you're just forcing an unnecessary move. Like, can you make any other move besides that?
Yeah, I know. I hear you on that one. But yeah, the Giants. We'll see what they do in a week. If they are just going to sell off, big parts of their team. I mean, my dad was floating out today. Should they trade Blake Snell right now? And that's, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
mean, just like, like, just think about it, man. The last time they won a championship was in 2014. It's been a decade, and all they've had to show for it is uh, a really good regular season in 2021, and you wind up losing in the divisional round to your rival. They had the playoff moment in 2016, but all of that World Series dust had kind of blown away at that point. They were just, it was a great wild card game for Madison Bumgarner. And when we talk about, when we talk about all-time great performances, we don't really add the 2016 one in there, but we should, for Bumgarner and him in his postseason. But anyway, I just, it's been so long. And if you have 3-4 more years of just mediocrity, I mean, you're looking at nearly a decade and a half of non-championship baseball. And I think that's what can lead fans to maybe turning on ownership and saying, yeah, we need changes.
Well, Giants are currently leading the Dodgers 2-1. So you Giants fans, they'll win tonight and everybody will be back on the train.
I don't think so.
Yeah, probably not.
I think a lot of have they're done, But
I know that was kind of the feelings today while Niners training camp was opening up. A lot of people at KMBR were like, we're done. We're done trying to get behind this Giants team." And we'll get into it. We'll see what they do a week from today. And whatever they do, we'll talk about it next week. I've already booked a guest for us, Steven. He knows his baseball, and he's good at moving couches. My guy, Walter Ichabal Celta, will join us on the podcast.
Oh, nice. All right, right on.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
Nah. Have you guys gotten I remember the first time you guys met, you were talking about on the podcast how you want to get dinner or lunch. Has he taken you up on that?
No, tacos.
See?
This place, I think it's called Five Tacos in Walnut Creek. No, I was just praising him for the offer. We don't even have to actually go through with it. But the fact that he offered, he's like, yeah, there's this place in Walnut Creek. $5 margaritas on Tuesdays. You haven't offered anything like that, Derek.
I would love to do that. Just very busy, and you're very busy. You go to bed at 5 o'clock every night. So tonight, I mean, you're really well past your bedtime.
I mean, well, it's 9:30. I need to go to bed earlier. I do.
All right, yeah. So Walter's going to join us next week.
Sweet.
Some quick NBA stories before we get to some pop culture catch up. Last ditch effort by TNT and Turner trying to get the NBA rights. They matched Amazon Prime's offer. I think it was $1.8 billion for the was it billion? I may have read that wrong, but it was a good amount to. It might have been billion, but Turner matches Amazon Prime's offer, and they want to keep the NBA on TNT. They want to have Inside the NBA. You have to believe that to match the streaming of Amazon Prime, that they were going to include Max in that in some way. But then it came out today that the NBA says, we're good. We're going with Amazon Prime. We want that. We want the streaming aspect. So it's official now. The NBA on TNT is not going to be a thing past this season.
I've already grieved.
Yeah, I know.
I've already grieved.
There was a little bit of hope, but yeah, and you know what? I get it. Because while we love that show, most sports leagues want to go the streaming platform. So I get that.
Yeah. I do too. I mean, it's sad, but whatever.
Yep. No, I hear you on that one.
I'm indifferent on it.
Yeah. And then I am so over. We do this every 4 years. Or in this case, because of COVID postponing the Olympics, every 3 years, last time this happened, every time Team USA has these exhibition games and they barely beat whoever they played, Germany or was it South Sudan that they were 41-point favorites for, whatever the fuck it was, and they barely win, and everybody's like, oh, this team is not focused. That's my Christian Mad Dog Russo.
Nice.
Relax. Who gives a shit? The Olympics is going to start. The opening ceremony is going to be, is it tomorrow or Friday? It's going to be Friday. Then there'll be actual games. relax, everybody. You're talking about exhibition games before we go to actually start playing for the gold. I don't care. I don't care. I'm sorry. Am I alone here? I think it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Steve Kerr's getting it on social media. He is.
I know he is. And SF Gate had a whole article written. Did you see this, Stephen? A whole article written about, hello, America. This is Steve Kerr. He doesn't motivate his teams. I'm like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Oh no, but that guy just speaks to the young Warrior fan though. That writer, I didn't even see the article, but I know which writer that is. That's the
Yeah.
same writer who says Steve Kerr's trying to sabotage Steph Curry. Like that SF Gate writer just really gets a rise out of people, and is just the perfect voice, I think, for a lot of the younger Warriors fans who just hate Steve Kerr and think they can all run Team USA and sub guys in and out and know the perfect way to do that, know exactly how to handle rotations during a game, know how to make in-game adjustments during a game, know how to draw plays out of the timeout. And they think they could do everything. It's nonstop. I don't really care about basketball during the Olympics because I know the U.S. is leaps and bounds better than everyone else. And so I've kind of dedicated a lot of my time, although this one's going to be more interesting because Steph Curry's a part of it. And if Steph Curry's a part of anything, I am going to watch. But if Steph Curry wasn't, I'd watch, but I don't know, not that intently. Olympic basketball has never really gotten me. There's been obviously a few good games, like, 2004, U.S. losing to Argentina, or playing against Spain, the Gasol brothers and everything. And they certainly have they can meet their match. But I don't know. I've just never really been that big into Olympic basketball.
No, I'm with you, Stephen. I think that it's the most easy thing to follow for traditional sports fans because we're so used to watching American basketball.
Right.
The Olympics to me are more than that. Like, yeah, the Team USA should dominate every team they play. So we'll see when that time comes. And that's when you can actually have opinions and hot takes and all that shit. But like to me, like, the Summer Olympics are, Michael Phelps time, swimming, and my favorite sport in the Summer Olympics is speed walking.
Yeah.
But just fun stuff. Like it's usually watching the obscure sports. It's more than just what we watch normally every year of basketball. I can watch that anytime during October, November, December, January, February, March, April, May, June. This is different. And yes, I'm going to watch Team USA because, I want to see the best players in the world. But the main thing I look forward to with the Summer Olympics is just watching those obscure things that you usually don't see.
Yeah. And maybe it's because I'm working for KCBS now, but I got a long list of athletes from the Bay Area participating in these Olympics. And
nice.
There are a ton of them. So
sweet.
It'll be interesting to keep tabs on them. I think 3 of them already played today in the rugby sevens. I don't know how they did against France, but dude, rugby sevens are great. Rugby sevens, it's just 7-on-7 rugby, 2 7-minute halves. The game doesn't last longer than 20 to 25 minutes. It's boom, 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 boom. And it's a lot of fun. I went to do a report. I had it on my laptop, and then I walk back, and some guy in the U.S. is getting kneed in the face in slow-mo. Or did you see what happened with soccer today?
Yes, I did.
Fucking Argentina and Morocco?
Yeah.
Holy shit. God. Seriously. It's like, it's what, Argentina ties it with like 3 minutes left in extra time, and Morocco fans ended up like storming the field, so they had to suspend play. And then after they cleared things up, that's when they called on review that Argentina's goal didn't count, so Morocco ended up winning, and the fans stormed the field for nothing.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah,
but also hilarious. Hilarious.
Yeah, but the men's, you got age restrictions for the men's, so it's not that interesting. It's all 23 and under, so they're not the best players for every nation. But the women's soccer, that's no age restrictions. That's all their senior national teams. So that one to me is interesting.
All right. Well, I look forward to these Summer Olympics. We'll definitely get into it, and I can't wait for the the Scott Hansen and Andrew Siciliano Red Zone channels for all the games. But the opening ceremonies are this Friday. That's a long ceremony for all the countries out there. But yeah, I look forward to watching the games. It's going to be fun.
I'm heading to a wedding, so I will not watch it. I'll have to look back and watch the opening ceremonies.
Okay, but you'll be on the show Sunday.
Yeah,
We just got to figure out what time because Steven needs to sleep after a wedding.
correct. I was thinking about it, man. Wedding Crashers gave us such a false sense of confidence when we were younger. It's like when you're in high school and you watch that movie, you're like, "Oh, dude, what if we did that? We could do that." And then like you really think that you could just go to a random wedding, put on a character, pretend you're some random cousins from the family, and you just hook up with a girl at every
Pips from
single.
Oakland.
It's like you hook up with a girl at every single wedding you go to. It's like it gave us such a false sense of confidence, dude. Like if the average guy actually did that, they would go home with an average of like, let's just say they go to 6 weddings and crash 6 weddings. They maybe take home 1 out of those 6, maybe 1.
So you're upset that a movie gave you false hope?
No, but it's funny how it did because I've just been to so many weddings now, and it's like you look at the weddings they have. Not a lot of them are like that. They obviously put it on for as a movie because it's Hollywood, but
Yeah.
still, I think a lot of guys, especially millennials, all thought, "Oh, dude, what we could crash weddings and just go. That's perfect."
Yeah, there's so many times in that movie where I can just see in reality where someone would be like, excuse me, do you have your invitation? What is your name?"
Yeah,
Like
right.
there's so many moments in that movie where just like they could have been busted so quickly, but they were just so damn charming.
Mm-hmm. They're Uncle Ned's kids.
How many times I got to tell you stop doing this shit? It's a great movie,
dude. One of the best lines is when they said, "How's Aunt whatever," and then he's like, "Oh, she's doing well. She's doing this and doing that. She's been dead for 3 years."
No,
from
he goes,
from the grave.
Yeah, he goes, yeah. She sends her best from the grave. We become so spiritual, but thank you. And then he pats his face.
From
How
the
many times
grave.
I said, "Dude, stop doing this shit." One of my favorite lines in that whole thing is when they're in the chapel, and Vince Vaughn is like eyeing some chick, and he goes, look at that over there. And then Owen Wilson goes, women with hats are usually pretty proper. And he goes, yeah, well, Miss Proper just fuck this shit. And then everybody in the church is like looking back, and I'm like, oh my God.
Sailor. Good man.
Sailor. Let's play Tubby Sticks. Great movie. Speaking of movies, I saw quite a bit while I was hanging out with my mom in Florida. You want to do pop culture catch up now, or do you want to do it next time?
Let's do it next time.
Okay, I'll save it. All right. I'll just give everybody a preview. I saw the new Planet of the Apes on demand. Went to go to the theater to see Twisters, and saw If. If you had to guess which movie I like the most, which one would you say?
If.
That's a tease.
Wow.
Yep. I'll let you know next time.
You definitely liked If more.
Why would you say that?
Because I could see you just hating Twisters and A New Planet of the Apes because they're sequels.
Yeah, well, that's a tease.
All
You'll find out next time. You'll find out next time we have the podcast, and we're going to be joined by an old friend. We got some guests coming up, guys. Coming up on the next podcast, we're talking, funny enough, you said Wedding Crasher, Steven. We'll talk training camp and weddings. Now, what podcasts are doing that? Talking training camp and weddings. So beautiful.
Eclectic.
Yes. Next podcast, we will compare Steven's preparation for his wedding with our good friend Elena Madzorkis. She's going to join us next time on the podcast. So we can't wait for that. All right, everybody. We will be back next time on Sunday. We'll give you guys a time. I told Elena 11:45, but I guess we'll have to push that back for old cranky Steven. So we'll let you guys know what time we're doing it on Sunday. To everybody in the chat, as always, Ernie1, Ernie2, Tacky. I think I saw a new guy in here tonight as my things are not loading.
Some guy named Nick.
Some guy named Nick?
Yeah, he was like from Chicago or something.
I saw that. I'm trying to give him this proper send off here.
Oh, Rick. His name is
Uh,
Rick.
Rick Diaz, was that his name?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, Rick Diaz. Thanks for coming to the chat tonight. Was AJ Cruz here? He might have been here
For a
originally.
little bit.
Yep, AJ Cruz. No Skills. Where you been, Skills? We'll get you guys next time. So check us out on Sunday. And as always, Steven, say what you always say.
Oh, it is just our opinion, man. Why?